He offered me a 1-800 number, and I called him. And then the message was, a friend will call you back. A year ago, we started off just hey, hi, every Tuesday, how you doing? From those conversations, I was able to take steps in the jobs. It came with some conversations about life too, and that's why she's my friend now, because it's not just about, hey, how you doing, bye. It's more like, how are you doing, and follow-up questions. Check back in with me. What's the latest on this? What's the latest on that? And anybody who ever was lonely know the difference between not having somebody to talk to and having somebody to talk to. And Miracle Friends feels that out personally.
At Penji is our commitment to helping those who are making sacrifices to help others. Thank you to those making a difference in your community. We are currently accepting applications for Penji for nonprofits. If you know a nonprofit or you are one yourself, head over to penji.co and click on Penji for Good at the bottom of the website to learn how to qualify. If you are listening to this podcast and are not a nonprofit, well, welcome. Become a customer by using the custom coupon code within the podcast show notes. Proceeds of all sales goes directly back to the nonprofit from this interview. Now, back to the show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Unified Purpose, the podcast where we share inspiring tales of compassion, resilience, and community spirit. I'm your host, Shannon, Penji's partnership coordinator, and I'm joined here today with two very special guests, Colette Lay and Taro McMillian from Miracle Messages. This organization helps ultimately set people up with friends to help them through their good days and bad. Taro's beautiful story makes me cry a lot more than I hope to ever cry on a podcast, but genuinely, it was one of those moving things I've ever heard of, and I really hope that you enjoy learning more about this organization. Thank you. All right, I just wanted to start out by saying thank you both for being on with me today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us. Nice to see you again.
It's great to see you again, too. So I just want to start out with asking you guys what this organization means to you and what its mission means to you specifically.
Oh, can I go first?
Yeah, that's fine. Miracle Friends to me is a friend that when I first moved to San Francisco, didn't have anybody out here, and I met the founder, one of the founders, Kevin, and Kevin introduced me to the organization, and I signed up, and then I got a phone call from Colette. From there, I felt like I had a friend out here.
That's wonderful.
And for me, it's the ability to just really connect with someone else in a way that I wouldn't have been able to without Miracle Friends, and develop this great friendship with somebody that we have a lot in common and also not a lot in common, and so we have these great conversations, and it's really fun. So it's really been a lot of really good has come for me of being part of the Miracle Friends program.
Looking into this organization, it seems like such a magical experience. I feel like I really wish that Philadelphia had something like this. That's where I would live. It needs something like this, truly. It is even just doing regular work that I do or have been doing in college, just working at a pizzeria and working and doing this and that. And I think that a lot of the population is kind of ignored, and it's really lovely to just get to speak to as many people as possible. And it would be really nice to see more of this, so I appreciate that. Can you tell me more about the work that you do and how you kind of got involved in this?
Well, I do want to say we can be in Philadelphia because one of the beautiful things about Miracle Friends is that it's completely remote. So Tara and I happen to live in the same area and decided, that we both wanted to meet in person, but that's not actually the Miracle Friends program. It's entirely remote. And so we do have people from all over the country, all over the world, really, that volunteer and participate in our programs, which is like one of my favorite things about it is that this recognition that people are isolated. And I think after COVID, people really started to recognize that isolation really takes a toll. And as our population ages, and our seniors are more isolated, they understand what we're talking about when we talk about this program. They understand loneliness and the effects that it has. And the thing that I love about Miracle Messages is that we're not bound to a certain geography. We can be anywhere. So it's just really accessible, which I think is really, really cool. So we'll talk about Philadelphia later.
I love that.
Yeah, it's good to know that you can access our services anywhere. We have a 1-800 number, 1-800-MISS-YOU, and we do get people from all over the world, that will see an article, see a podcast like this one, and they instantly understand what we're trying to do and what we're about. And they volunteer or they donate or they sign up to participate, and everybody can participate. So it's really cool. I really love that about the organization.
Me too.
That makes me really happy. Okay. I didn't know that, so I'm really happy that I can figure that out. That would be really great. And then so how did you get involved initially?
So I got involved. I heard Kevin Adler, the founder, speak in 2018 and was instantly drawn to his message. It felt like a need that nobody was addressing, and it seemed so simple. When someone tells you about it, it's like, wow, that's so makes sense, right? Like it really makes sense. It's so simple, and there's not all of this overhead and bureaucracy. It just really works. So we chatted a little bit then, and I kind of followed the organization. And then in 2021, during the pandemic, I had the opportunity to join him and work here as well, which I jumped all over. I love being here. I love that I get to help him and the rest of the staff sort of create what this is going to look like as we grow. And I'm a huge fan of the program as it's evolved from the reunion program during the pandemic to Miracle Messages. And then as we start to get into basic income, just as we see the needs that we're finding in the street and in the partner sites, that's sort of how our organization has evolved. So it's been really, really exciting for me.
It's fantastic. Tara, would you be able to share more about how you got involved?
Yes, of course. Like she said, the message isn't complicated. I met Kevin, and his whole message was, did anybody need a friend? And as soon as I heard it, I was drawn to him. And if you ever meet Kevin, he's the kind of guy that you just like talking to. And as I was walking and talking with him, I just wanted to be, I thought he was going to be my friend. And I was really my friend. Kevin is a good friend of mine. And the whole message was, we're here to be, to help you navigate the obstacles that come with living in San Francisco. I'm re-entering, and he offered me a 1-800 number, and I called the 1-800 number, and then the message was, a friend will call you back. And that's how I met Colette a year ago. We started off just hey, hi, every Tuesday, how you doing? And just from those conversations, I was able to take steps in the jobs, and it came with some conversations about life too, and that's why she's my friend now, because it's not just about, hey, how you doing? Bye. It's more like, how are you doing? And follow-up questions, and check back in with me. What's the latest on this? What's the latest on that? And anybody who ever was lonely know the difference between not having somebody to talk to and having somebody to talk to, and Miracle Friends fills that gap perfectly.
This is like making me this wonderful. Sorry. That's just really beautiful.
It's okay. We're used to it. Like we go through this a lot. Like we hear all of the fantastic stories, and Tara's right. Like it's so simple to make this happen. Everybody should get to experience it. Everybody should be involved with what we're doing, because it really does make a difference in a really simple, elegant way.
Yes, everybody.
Fair enough. I hope I'm sitting next to my desk at home. I'm just not at home right now.
It's just when I moved to Philly,
I used to when I moved to Philly, I volunteered with this organization that worked with homeless people in the city and them re-entering. And I think that this was a problem that wasn't addressed, that I ran into very often. Talking to people, because we were ultimately just helping them get set up with jobs and some kind of income. And it's just really lovely to hear that someone is addressing this, because I'm just having like one conversation with them. That's the best that I could do. And just hearing about this is so incredible. So thank you so much for talking about it. And I would love to learn more about it through this and afterwards. So thank you so much.
I think your experience with what you're talking about is really typical. Like those first needs that pop up is a place to live and an income and a job and food and, you know, clothing. And I think that as a society, we have largely ignored the impact that loneliness has had. And I think it is something that we can all relate to from a variety of different angles. And so when you hear about it, you know, you have that reaction that you're having right now, and the intersectionality between loneliness and the reentry and aging that I mentioned before, any veterans, foster care, almost everything that exists in society, the loneliness can be an element that just makes it that much harder to overcome. And so I think that's really important that Miracle Messages sort of fills that spot, because there are a lot of organizations that are filling the other spots. And so as we can bring more awareness that this is just as important, it's just as detrimental, to your health to feel so isolated, we can make progress. We can make progress just getting the word out. So these types of podcasts are really, really helpful just to get the word out.
Yeah, money and a place to live is really important and has to be living here and anywhere, but having people to talk to is just as important, and I run into that all the time. So that's so incredible. I can't stop that word, but you so I'm gonna stop crying. So for the more technical side of things, to help organizations that do work just as good as yours, I wanted to know what are some ways that you market your organization, and how do you get the attention of people that may not care about this or don't know about it?
That is a great question. So, Taro mentioned that he met Kevin. I met Kevin when he was speaking, and then Taro met Kevin when Kevin was doing outreach. So that's definitely one way. We did just hire a director of communications. Like, we are aware that people need to hear about us. Once you hear about us, you will be interested. You will be interested. You will want to know more. And there will be a way that you can help, even if you're far away and you can donate, or if you want to volunteer, or if you know someone that would be a good candidate for a program. So I think that being able to get out in front of, a larger audience is really what we need to do.
That's great. So what is your strategy for outreach then, both for volunteers and also for individuals looking for support?
So right now as I mentioned, we just hired a director of communications. So we're working on all of this strategy right now. Media works really well. It's a really compelling story. So we do occasionally, get on the news or in print from our story. Kevin will speak. We do a lot on social media. We have a lot of partners in the cities that, we're here in San Francisco where we started, and some of the other cities where we have a presence. those partner sites are vital. The ones, like you were just mentioning, where there are other people that understand what we're trying to do and are focusing on housing or jobs or food, but see the element that we're talking about, and just having that card, Tara mentioned that card, being able to get that into the hands of people that, they then have to take the initiative to call the number. But whatever we can do to get that number in front of everybody, through social media, through articles, through speaking, podcasts. Kevin wrote a book the end of last year called When We Walk By, and that actually has garnered some other opportunities for us. And it's a great book about sort of how we got here, because people always want to know, why does it seem like homelessness has increased? And we all walk by. Why are we walking by? What can we do? It's a really good overview of the homelessness situation, and then how you can act on it in your area where you live.
That's awesome. I just wrote that down. I would really like to read that. Thank you. So how do you, I was wondering about the communication side of this. So when these are specifically, I guess, phone related things, how do you have any kind of system where people don't have access to communication like this?
It's the Phone Buddy system is phone based. So we do, at this point, you do have to have a phone to participate. So Tara and I speak on the phone, but we also text. If one of us is busy or working or whatever, and we can't connect, like we can text back and forth. We can have calls. We are looking at expanding ways to connect outside of a phone, but at this point, it is a phone-based buddy program.
I think I always felt like after the paperwork was all done, nobody would ask me, so how are you doing? And Miracle Friends does that. Miracle Friends not only does that, she calls me every Tuesday. And that's one of the first things we start with is how am I doing before we get into the housing, employment, any of those other things that, cover that. But she always starts with how are you doing? And that opens up that. I believe that if you start with a how you doing, you can get to the rest later. But sometimes she said how I'm doing, and I'll be like, I'm going through this, I'm going through that. And that's why I call her my friend. It's not just have you got a job, you have anything to eat. She wants to know that I'm all right. I'm all right.
Yeah, people can have everything that they need textbook wise, but not what they want, or not what makes them happy. So I completely understand that. That's really good. 1 second, I'm going to blow my... I don't want you to hear it.
Let's turn up audio.
Can you hear me? Okay, great. I just didn't want you to. I was for the fundraising part, because I know that a lot of nonprofits that'll be watching will be wondering about that, and also tips on how you do gain that kind of traction. What kind of strategies do you use to fundraise, and are there any specific tips that you suggest to others out there?
For fundraising, because we're sort of on a growth trajectory right now, it has been pretty organic. When someone reads about us in the paper, when somebody, reads the book, they reach out, which has been fantastic. And so one of the other things that we're doing that, having the communications, as we start to dial that in, we will be more focused on actual fundraising strategy. We do have, once a year, we have a gala that is not strictly fundraising. It's sort of this beautiful mix of volunteer acknowledgement And the friends that we have that live locally come, and then we also have donors. And it's kind of a recap of the year. And we bring all these people together into this room. And we were really lucky this year when we had the gala in February that Taro was there and he was able to come and talk about his story. And I think that really resonated with the people that were in the room. You know, they can see, you know, he can tell you a little bit about his story and like what he has overcome to get here. And when you hear that and it resonates and you see immediately how you can be impacted and that it actually makes a difference, you know, that's sort of where we are as an organization right now. But he got up in front of all those people and told his story, and
it was amazing. It was amazing. What I did, I just told it from my heart. I was one of those people that was out there. Nobody stopped and talked to me until Kevin stopped and talked to me. And then from me and Kevin's interaction, I felt like I was, you know, not just somebody on the street no more. You know, I knew Kevin knew Taro. And then I told him, like, you know, I'm out here in San Francisco with everybody now. I wanted to be a part of the helpful process and not just, I'm not just a face on the sidewalk no more. I'm out here with y'all now. And I always told them at the end of my little speech, I was like, you know, if you see me out there, my name's Taro. You know, stop, say hi, and you know, I feel like if the humanity in it is almost, if you don't know my name, I'm just a homeless person. But if you know my name, then I'm not a homeless person no more. You don't have to be afraid of me. You don't have to be, you know, stereotype me. You can find out what I am, who I am, and I felt like, you know, everybody in that room, I felt like I got to meet them that night. A lot of friendships, a lot of good food, and I'm looking forward to next year.
Well, congratulations also on being able to do a big speech. That's still really brave. I have trouble with that myself.
Nerve-wracking. It was a lot of people, yeah. But even just having the before the event, like having people just walk around, right? And you don't know at that point, you know, is this somebody that is a guest of someone else? Is this somebody that works for Miracle Mercy? Is this somebody that's going to donate $50,000? Like, we're just humans enjoying, you know, appetizers. It was fantastic. I mean, Taro is this really kind, thoughtful person, and for people to get to see that, like, I think that's amazing. You know, that they got to meet him and see that about him. So, despite everything that he's been through, you know, so because of everything he'd been through.
I think so. I always say that too. I wouldn't be here if I didn't go through everything I went through. It was if I could tell the story, when we sat at the table, I didn't know anybody at the table but Colette, but it was a couple that I sat with. And how he could tell I was nervous because I wasn't eating. And he was like, "What's up?" He was like, "Well, how you doing?" I said, "I'm nervous. I got to get up and speak." And he told me, "You're in the room with the people that can help. Talk from your heart." And that it took away the nervousness because I was nervous about people judging me, thinking that. But he like, this is the room where you could talk to. You could tell him right here. And I was like, right, thank you. And it came from there. And because what he was telling me is like, if anybody could hear your story, these are the people that need to hear your story right here. And that's how I felt.
That's amazing. So do you organically normally get people to support you through these kind of stories? Like they care like a normal person? In the beginning, when you started, did you have to write proposals for grants or larger foundations by any chance?
We do have a grant process. It's often that a supporter will highlight an opportunity for us. And so we have the goal in the next year of hiring a development director that will do more outreach. But because this is something that I think is really easy for people to understand and that they really want to help, we've been very fortunate that a lot of this, you know, as a startup that has come our way. And now as we sort of pivot and work on the development side, there will be more of that. But typically when a grant comes from us, it's because someone has suggested like we're a good fit for this, or they know that, you know, this is something that we need at the moment. So
it's really lovely to hear that people care so much. I feel like for a lot of nonprofits, you don't run into that very often, that people are so generous. So that's really good to hear, especially for something that definitely like this that really needs it. I appreciate hearing that. Would you be able to share more about your volunteer process and how other people can sign up?
Yeah, you could go right to our website, miraclemessages.org, and the volunteer opportunities are listed there. We have a couple of different programs, the Miracle Friends program that we're talking about, and then we also have a reunion program where we try to reconnect people with their families, and we have volunteers that we call digital detectives that get online and, try to find family members that maybe people have lost touch with their family, over a course of 10 to 12 years. And so that's a volunteer opportunity that we have as well. Always on our website. And you can follow us on social media. We can often highlight, stories and information about when we need volunteers on our social media, especially with our new director of communications. Somebody will be paying attention to that more than we have in the past. So we're super excited about that.
That's really good. I know that a huge part of why Penji, the company that I work for, does the nonprofit podcast and then also does our Penji for Good program is that we do know that a lot of nonprofits have a difficult time building their communications program or their their graphics program, because that's kind of the last thing that you worry about with an organization, especially when you're just building up. So we try to be able to provide that for as minimal as possible as we can for people like you, so that you can minimize that workload, because that often goes on one person or one person doing so many other things, and also that. So it's really also good to hear that you guys have a communications director now, because it's also it's always good to hear the growth with organizations and knowing that that's happening. I wanted to ask, since you had used Penji before, would you be able to speak a little bit about your experience with that?
Yeah. So what you just mentioned is true. It is very easy to put these things on the back burner as far as spending money when, you see such a need when you're working in the homeless space. But I think the other piece of it is just the expertise that comes along. Like, being a communications person is a job, right? Like, it is a thing. And so being able to have like a Penji compile a team of experts, in the areas that you might need help, can be really beneficial, instead of, hiring somebody that can do all the things when you are not ready for that yet. One of the things that the Penji for Good program, I think, was very accessible. I think that I got a lot of communication. I was able to connect with two people, not just one. Also internationally, you guys are also all over the place, so that was super cool. One of my reps is in Puerto Rico, and so that was interesting. And just being able to have that communication back and forth on, this is what I need, and do you like it? Are there any changes? And then, another iteration, so that you can dial in and bring that professional expertise to communications for small groups, I think is super important.
I really appreciate that. That's all that we're trying to do. We want to make it as easy as possible, not something that you have to jump through hoops for. We're trying to help and not hurt. So I really appreciate that. This is actually all the time that we have today, but this was so wonderful. I'm really appreciative to be able to learn about your organization. Thank you both of you so much for coming on, and I will be looking into this. I am just so happy to hear that something like this exists.
You've been listening to Unified Purpose, brought to you by Penji. Check out the show notes to learn more about today's guest. And to learn more about Penji, the human-first creative subscription service, head over to penji.co. And by the way, if you're still listening, it would mean the absolute world to us if you were to share this podcast with a friend, and of course, subscribe.